You are sitting in a house full of garbage that you think is wealth. Look around the room you're in right now. I want you to really look. You see furniture, electronics, decorations. But let me ask you a question that is going to make you uncomfortable. If the trucks stop running tomorrow, how much of that stuff can keep you alive? Most of you are hoarding liabilities. You're stacking up things that require power, require maintenance, or require a supply chain that is currently held together by duct tape and prayers. Statistics show that the average household has less than 3 days of functional sustainability once the grid goes down. That means when the panic hits, you are going to be one of the millions of desperate people fighting over the last plastic bottle of water at the grocery store. But while the 99% are out there acting like animals, screaming because Amazon can't deliver their salvation, you could be sitting in your fortress manufacturing your own survival. Today, I'm going to show you how to turn raw materials, trash, nature, and basic chemistry into the critical infrastructure of life. We are talking about DIY emergency supplies that actually work, based on physics and chemistry, not hope. This isn't arts and crafts time. This is about seizing the means of production for your own survival. If you want to be the person who builds the solution while everyone else is begging for one, hit subscribe. Drop a comment telling me the one piece of gear you're terrified of breaking. Let's get to work. Let's start with the most critical failure point in modern survival, the lie of the battery. You have a drawer full of AA's, maybe a solar charger that takes 8 hours to charge a phone to 10%. That is a joke. When the grid dies, your battery stockpile is just a countdown clock to darkness. Let me paint you a picture of 3 weeks into a collapse. Your flashlight is dead. Your phone is a brick. It is pitch black, and the psychological weight of that darkness is crushing your will to live. You can't see the threat approaching your perimeter. You are blind, and in a survival situation, blindness is a death sentence. The solution is something our ancestors mastered, and you have forgotten. The pressurized olive oil lamp, or the rendered fat candle. I'm not talking about a wick in a jar. I'm talking about a physics-based combustion system. You need a fuel source that is renewable. If you can hunt or trap, you have animal fat. If you can scavenge, you have motor oil or cooking oil. Here is the technical deep dive. A standard candle provides about 12 lumens. A pressurized mantle system or a properly drafted wick system can push that to 60 or 80 lumens. You are going to take a glass jar, a metal lid, and a cotton wick. A strip of t-shirt works. But the secret, the thing nobody tells you, is the airflow. You need to punch ventilation holes at the base of the burner to create the chimney effect. While your neighbors are sitting in the dark weeping because their Duracells leaked, you are running a lighting system that runs on the fat of a squirrel or the oil from an abandoned fryer. This gives you psychological dominance. Light is morale. Light is security. And you can make this today with trash from your recycling bin. But there is a dark truth here. Fire is dangerous. In a grid-down scenario, there is no fire department. If you burn your shelter down, you die of exposure. You have to treat these lamps like active weapons systems. They require constant overwatch. Do not be the idiot who survives the apocalypse only to burn to death in his sleep. Go to your kitchen right now, find a mason jar, drill a hole in the lid for a wick, and test different oils. Figure out which one smokes, which one burns clean, map the burn rate per ounce, know your consumption. Now let's talk about the biological time bomb ticking in your gut, water. You think that Life Straw is going to save you? It's good for a hike. It is not a solution for a family of 4 for 6 months. The flow rate is garbage, and eventually, it clogs. Imagine you are staring at a pond covered in green scum. That is your only water source. Your little plastic filter is clogged. You have kids crying for water. If you drink that raw, you are dead from dysentery in 3 days. You need a bulk filtration system that processes gallons, not ounces. We are going to build a biosand filter. This is civil engineering scaled down to a 5-gallon bucket. It uses gravity, mechanical trapping, and biological predation. Yes, you are going to weaponize bacteria to kill other bacteria. Here is the physics. You need layers. Coarse gravel at the bottom for drainage. Small gravel, then sand. But not just any sand. You need sharp, angular sand, washed clean. The magic happens in the top 2 inches of the sand. This is called the Schmutzdecke, or biological layer. Over 2 weeks, a biofilm forms here that actually eats the pathogens passing through. While everyone else is boiling every drop of water and wasting precious fuel or trusting a filter they can't replace, you have a living system that cleans water 24/7. This setup can filter 99% of bacteria and viruses once that biolayer is established. It turns a swamp into a tap. However, you have to understand the limitation. This takes time to establish. You cannot build this the day the bombs drop and expect it to work instantly. It needs a break-in period. And it doesn't remove chemicals. If your water source is full of pesticides or heavy metals, you need activated charcoal. To handle chemicals, you make activated charcoal. You take hardwood, burn it to coal, and then process it with calcium chloride, which sounds fancy, but you can derive a substitute from lemon juice or bleach to increase the surface area. This creates a matrix of microscopic pores that trap toxins. It is adsorption, not absorption. Look it up. Your directive is to source 3 5-gallon buckets today. Get the sand. Wash it now. It takes more water to wash the sand than you think. Do the work now so you aren't wasting drinking water washing sand when the taps are dry. Let's pivot to thermal regulation. You have a sleeping bag, great. But what happens when the temperature drops to 10 degrees and stays there for a month? Hypothermia is the silent killer. It makes you stupid before it kills you. You will make bad decisions, and then you will just go to sleep and never wake up. You cannot heat a house with a campfire in the living room unless you want to die of carbon monoxide poisoning. You need a way to capture and radiate heat efficiently from a small flame. You need a thermal mass heater. The design is simple, but the thermodynamics are brilliant. You take a terracotta pot, turn it upside down over a small heat source, even a few candles or your oil lamp. You place a smaller pot inside a larger pot. The hot air rises, gets trapped between the pots, and heats the clay. The clay then radiates that heat out as infrared energy, which warms bodies, not just the air at the ceiling. Most people will light a fire and watch 90% of the heat go up the chimney. They are burning calories chopping wood for zero return. You are using a microsource to create a localized heat zone. You can keep a small room survivable with a fraction of the fuel. But here's the kicker that most people never consider. This only works if you compartmentalize. You cannot heat a McMansion with a flower pot. You have to build a microclimate. Tent off a single room. Use blankets to lower the ceiling. Reduce the volume you are heating. The dark truth is that this won't make you comfortable. It will keep you alive. There is a difference. You will still be cold, but you won't freeze to death. Survival is not about comfort. It is about maintaining a core body temperature that allows for cognitive function. Now let's talk about security. You think you are safe because you locked the door? A deadbolt is a suggestion to a desperate man with a pry bar. You need early warning. You need to know they are coming before they are at your door. Electronic alarms are useless when the power dies. You need a mechanical tripwire system. But not just string and cans. That's amateur hour. We are talking about tension release percussion alarms. You can build these with mouse traps, fishing line, and 209 shotgun primers. Here is the mechanics. You mount the mousetrap to a stake. You attach the tripwire to the trigger. When someone walks through the line, the trap snaps. But instead of catching a mouse, the bar strikes a primer or breaks a chem light. It is an immediate, loud, or visual indicator that your perimeter is breached. While the unprepared are sleeping soundly, trusting a dead ADT system, you have a physical security ring that screams when crossed. This gives you the one thing you can't buy, reaction time. That 3 seconds of warning is the difference between waking up with a gun in your hand or waking up dead. However, you must be disciplined. If you set traps, you must map them. If you forget where you put a tripwire, you become the casualty, or worse, your kid runs through it. These are not toys. They are area denial weapons. Get some mouse traps. Get some high-test fishing line. Practice setting up a perimeter in your backyard. Learn how much tension sets it off. Learn how the wind affects it. Do the recon on your own property. Let's move to a resource that is more valuable than gold in a collapse: adhesives and sealants. When your boot sole rips off, or your water tank cracks, or your window is shattered, you can't run to Home Depot. You need pine pitch glue. This is the epoxy of the Stone Age. Native Americans used this to haft arrowheads that hit with enough force to pierce bone. It is waterproof, hard as rock, and you can make it from a pine tree. The science is simple but strict. You collect the resin, the sticky sap, you melt it down carefully, It is flammable. You filter out the bugs and bark, then you must add a tempering agent, charcoal dust or rabbit dung. Yes, poop. It acts as a binder like rebar and concrete. Without it, the glue is brittle and will shatter. You mix in about 1 part charcoal to 3 parts resin. While it is hot, it is a liquid glue. When it cools, it is a solid plastic. You can make glue sticks that you carry in your pack. Heat them up with a lighter, apply, and fix your gear. While everyone else is using duct tape that fails when it gets wet or cold, you are using a chemical bond that has held tools together for 10,000 years. This is true self-reliance. You are harvesting the landscape to repair your world. The catch? It is messy. It stains everything. And gathering enough resin takes hours. You cannot do this quickly. You need to start collecting resin now. Every time you go for a hike, bring a tin. Scrape the trees. Build your stockpile of raw materials before you need them. Finally, let's talk about hygiene. Not just smelling good. I'm talking about preventing the rot that comes from filth. Soap. You think soap is a luxury? Soap is a medical necessity. Without it, a scratch becomes an infection, and in a post-antibiotic world, an infection is a funeral. You can make soap from wood ash and animal fat. It is called lye soap. You leach water through hardwood ashes to create potassium hydroxide. That's your lye. You mix that with rendered fat. The chemical reaction is called saponification. It turns 2 things that are gross, grease and caustic water, into the thing that cleans you. This is dangerous chemistry. Lye will blind you. It will burn your skin off. But if you master this, you control hygiene. You can wash clothes, you can wash bodies, you can sterilize surfaces. You become the cleanest person in the wasteland. Most people will run out of soap in a month. They will be wearing clothes stiff with sweat and grime. They will have skin sores. You will have a renewable source of cleanliness. That is a massive advantage for long-term survival. But here is the warning. If you get the ratio wrong, you either get greasy sludge or a bar of soap that burns your skin like acid. You have to test the pH. You have to learn the zap test, touching it to your tongue. If it zaps like a battery, it's too hot. Cook it longer. We have covered light, water, heat, security, repair, and hygiene. These are the pillars of civilization. And you can build them all in your garage. But here is the brutal reality. Knowledge is potential power. Action is actual power. You can watch this video, nod your head, and go back to scrolling. You can remain a consumer, dependent on a system that hates you. Or you can close this tab, go out to your garage, and start building. The choice is binary. You are either a factory or you are a casualty. There is no middle ground when the shelves are empty. The 1% who survive are the ones who can create value from chaos. I want you to do one thing today. Just one. Make the lamp. Or render the fat. Or build the filter. Prove to yourself that you can manipulate the physical world. Do not let your hands go soft. If you are part of the fraction of 1% who is actually going to do this, hit that subscribe button. We are building a community of producers, not parasites. Class dismissed.